Nini everyone, Sabora here. I was speaking to Azrael, Angel of Melancholy, about a couple different concepts in religion and stuff, and we started talking about Mormonism and a couple things with the papyrus, and that of course led to his question about the Ba and Ka. He said, "Is the Ba and Ka kind of like the mind and spirit?" And I says, well, yes and no. It like all things with Egyptian theology, it's both and it's never consistent and uniform. Basically, when you die, the concept of the Egyptian soul, it splits into five pieces. Yes, you have the Ba and the Ka, but you also have the Ib and the Shiut and the Ren. Now, the Ka is that divine spark of life. It is that immortal being from the gods, okay? Your Ba is your personality. That's the piece that is uniquely you, okay? It's the way you think, the way you act, what you like, what you dislike, what you respond to. That's your Ba. It's your personality. The Ib is the heart. It is metaphysical heart. It's the place of emotion, thought, willpower. It's the heart of it's the seat of the soul, basically. Okay. Now, why would the Egyptians think this? Well, when you see someone of that you're attracted to, okay, physically, does your heart not beat faster? When your heart gets broken, does your chest not hurt? When you get angry, are you not enraged and feel the rush in your chest? So maybe that's why the concept of the heart and all of that was the mind, basically, or our understanding of the mind basically would have been the heart of ancient Egyptian times. The mind itself was basically, well, like the movie The Mummy said, where they would just, it was a gray matter that they would scramble up and rip out of your nostrils. I mean, they didn't even save it in one of the canopic jars. It was a useless organ that they just threw out. It was too much water. So the Ib is the heart. Have you guys ever heard of like put your heart into it, or they put their heart and soul into their work or something like that? That's been around since the 1700s, but the Egyptians had this concept 6,000 years or 4,000 years before that, so it's like 6,000 years ago, okay? So yeah, the next piece we have here, I said, was the what did I say? The Shiut. Oh yeah, the shadow self. It's the imprint of the self. So think residual haunting versus intelligent haunting. If you guys don't know the difference, why don't you go ask Azrael? I'm sure he would love some feedback on some of his recent videos, okay? I think we even talked about it in our interview a little bit about the imprint of the self and the residual hauntings. So then you have the Ren, which is the secret name. Now, I did ask Hellbound Heathen about this because I wasn't sure. I remember something from a fictional book about knowing the name of the fairy and it giving you power over that entity. Because the Egyptians, they have a very similar concept with the Ren. The Ren is the secret name of the soul. Everybody, every deity, they have this. And Isis, Osset, she actually learned Ra's secret name and used it to force him to step down and her son Horus to take over. So I asked him about it, and he's like, no, I think you're thinking more along the lines of the concept in demonology, whereas you have to know the name of the demon in order to cast it out. And I was like, oh man, I think you're right. I think I'm totally wrong on this. So Azrael's actually going to be doing his own video on this about knowing the name of a demon in order to exorcise it. So he's going to cover it there, but come on, guys. Christianity, which comes from Judaism, which could have been possibly most likely influenced by Kemetic concepts. Every road leads back to Egypt. So, after you die and your body becomes these five pieces, The mummification ritual that's performed by the priests of Yenapu or Anubis, they put your soul back together so that it can be whole in the land of Duat. Now, Duat is the land of the dead. It's similar to the Greek concept of the land of the dead, where they have the Aleutian fields, which are basically the fields of rushes or the field of reeds in Egyptian concepts. It's heaven, okay? It's the place where all the nice people go. And then you have the rest of Duat, or the land of the dead, which is where all the other spirits kind of hang out and whatnot. There is a little bit of a different concepts between these two ideologies, because the Greeks have Tartarus, where the bad souls are tortured, and the Egyptians, the bad souls just get eaten by a mit, or they're not allowed in, or they don't make it in. So there is a difference here, okay? So it's not Tartarus. Duat is not Tartarus. I want you to understand that. The field of reeds, though, is described as the Ka of the Nile Valley. So now we all know Wicca has the concept of as above, so below. Well, the Egyptians had this same concept. So do the people of Africa. What it acts on in the mundane level is how it's going to act in the spiritual level, okay? So the field of reeds in Duat is the shadowland of the Nile Valley, of the Egyptian way of life. It is quite literally the underworld, which is just a reflection of this world, okay? And the field of reeds is the divine spark at which all life flows, okay? So, let me see my notes here. So all kings, they go to the field of reeds, as well as all the priests and stuff, because they would have had, their own tombs or their own books of the dead in the later years and stuff like that, or they would have been buried with the pharaohs and their names would have been included and whatnot. So basically most of the priests, and then eventually everybody else, the viziers and everything, would be allowed into the field of reeds, because the priests started selling trade secrets in order to make money, and that's kind of probably why Atenism happened. They became pretty powerful. So Duat is represented by a pentacle, believe it or not. Pretty cool, huh? Alright, and we know a little bit about Duat from the Book of the Dead, from the earlier reincarnations, like the coffin text, on Duat, the Book of Gates, the Book of Caverns, not caravans, caverns. Each is different in its concept of Duat. Some say it's just like the Nile Valley with the lakes and mounds and rivers and stuff. Others say it's got trees made of turquoise, and some of the theologies of Duat, they change in between the different books that you're reading, the different texts that you're reading. So like I said, again, it's never ever a uniform concept. That's just the way Egyptian theology is. So Duat is filled with these spirits who are not able to pass through the Shadowland, okay? Demons and bad spirits, they all reside in Duat, okay? So if you chose to not be judged, this is where you would end up. It's the Shadowland, okay? Now, the Book of the Dead, and again, the earlier reincarnations of it, such as the coffin texts and the pyramid texts, they were mapped through this land and to the Hall of Two Truths, which is where Osir lived, and Tahuti and Yinapu and Horu and Ma'at and Heter, they all lived in Duat as well. So once you reach the Hall of Two Truths, your ib, or your heart, your spirit basically, is weighed by Yinapu against the feather of Ma'at. If it all works out and your feather is as light as Ma'at's feather and the scales balance out, then you're led to Osir, and Osir either says yes and you're in, or Osir says no, I know you cheated with using your ib amulet, and you put that spell on on your Ib amulet. I know you cheated. You're a bad person. I'm not letting you in. So then Amit would eat your soul. Now, if you happen to stumble your way across Duat and you didn't have one of these scarabs that had this ritual on it, this spell of contrition on it, then, well, you were just crap out of luck and Amit was going to eat your soul too, okay? So, if you were a bad person and you knew your soul was going to get eaten, then maybe you were going to choose not to try to pursue the land of two truths. So you would also reside in Duat, in the land of the dead. And you would never become Anak, which is the ancestor spirit. You would just stay, or the helpful spirit, you would just stay a bad spirit tormenting people for eternity, okay? You would never be able to come back to your body, which is, again, one of the whole reasons they perform the opening of the mouth. It's so that the spirit can come back to the body. Egyptians had zombies. Okay? So, one of the things that the priests would do would perform a purification ritual on you if you came to them and said, hey, I'm having some bad luck. I think I'm being cursed or whatever, or maybe the gods are punishing me. The first thing that they would do is perform a purification ritual on you, because these bad spirits, they want attention, they want life, and they will torment you in order to get it. So that is the whole concepts, the 5 parts of the soul, and what happens in Duat after you die. So hopefully you're lucky enough to be buried with the Book of Going Forth by Day, also known as the Book of the Dead, or maybe you're lucky enough to be put in some sarcophagi with some printing on it, like the coffin text, or maybe you're in a pyramid somewhere with the pyramid text all around you. In today's modern time, you would be put with a Book of the Dead. So hopefully you're lucky enough to be buried with the Book of the Dead, and you make it to the other side in one piece. All right. So that is it for tonight, guys. Sun update.